Welcome to Arizona Sonora News, a production of the University of Arizona School of Journalism. I'm Carson Courier.
And I'm Jazz Ramos. Tucson's historic 4th Avenue will go through a major change this fall. 4th Avenue is home to a unique and vibrant culture of locally owned businesses. Developer EDR, the country's largest developers of collegiate housing, bought the Flycatcher Bar's location. 4th Avenue Merchants Association's Executive Director Fred Ronstadt has a clear view of what will be coming to the avenue.
The reality is that when the city installed the modern streetcar, that sort of set the plate for future development.
The Sunlink makes multiple stops here on 4th Avenue, home of the Flycatcher Bar and Maloney's Tavern, which will be the new locations for these developments.
If we bring more of those there and maybe spread out student living, it'll help, fund a lot of local businesses other than just the campus itself.
Ronstadt says that 4th Avenue Merchants Association has ensured that any developments will stay local, but others worry the whole dynamic will change.
I think that trying to stabilize it as bringing a suburb vibe is what I feel like the complexes are going to be, is a no-go. I think that takes away from the feel of the uniqueness and the artist community here.
Merchants saw a change in the landscape of the avenue when student housing complex The District on 5th was built a few years ago, but businesses hope one thing will stay the same.
4th Avenue is for everyone. It's where we want everybody in the community to come and visit and have a great time and have a great experience. Because truly, after all, that's what it is. It's a place to come and experience who we are as a community.
The new development will be called the Union on 6th and will be finished in a couple of years. For Arizona Sonora News, I'm Jazz Ramos.
4th Avenue won't be the only thing changing in Tucson this year. There is a possibility that 500 new scooters could be coming to a Tucson street near you. Arizona Sonora News reporter Lori Lipson has more on the trendy transportation.
These innovative two-wheel devices have taken over many cities. People use electric scooters as a cheap form of transportation and find them easily through an app. In 2018, e-scooters hit the streets of Arizona in Scottsdale and Tempe. Scottsdale resident Chaz Vandercook says e-scooters are a great way to get around the city.
It is kind of a new wave form of transportation. I personally take one to work.
As fun and convenient as they may be, the Tempe Fire Department responded to 119 scooter-related injuries between June and December. Scooter safety hazards in other cities make it still an issue for Tucson.
In early January, the Tucson City Council rejected a 6-month pilot program to bring 2,000 dockless e-scooters to city streets.
We had set 4 originally operators and up to 1,000 scooters.
Bicycle and Pedestrian Program Coordinator Andy Bemis says this is due to safety concerns.
Road conditions and things like that may impact scooter safety, so not have them in Tucson, it's hard to say what the safety impacts will be, but that's something we're very concerned about.
The conversation continues for Tucson as a revised proposal is coming to the City Council next month for deliberation. Tucson City Council member Paul Durham says the proposal will address inappropriate parking of e-scooters.
A requirement of the operators to move any scooters inappropriately parked, blocking a sidewalk or whatever, within 2 hours of being notified.
For now, e-scooters are banned from the City of Tucson and the University of Arizona campus. For Arizona Sonora News, I'm Lori Lipson.
One local group is pushing to make Tucson the state's first sanctuary city. While Tucson is already considered an immigrant-friendly city, the People's Defense Initiative wants to take that one step further. Director Zyra Liviere says the initiative would prohibit Tucson police officers from questioning and detaining people based on their immigration status.
In a nutshell, it will take general orders that we already have in place and internal policies that we have in place here in Tucson, taking them a large step further, and then solidifying them forever.
The People's Defense Initiative needs 9,000 signatures by July in order to get on the November ballot.
In 2018, the city of Tucson, Pima County, and Tucson Medical Center filed lawsuits against big pharmaceutical companies to hold them accountable for the addictive nature of opioids. And in January, the city of Tucson and Pima County filed a lawsuit against manufacturers and distributors of opioids. They are seeking compensation for the money spent combating the epidemic locally.
By way of example, the state of Minnesota sued 3M for contaminating their water. 3M settled for $850 million before they even went into court.
The potential settlement would go toward further resources to aid those affected by opioid crisis.
Up next, learn what local groups are doing to help the homeless in Tucson.
And we sit down with a water professional to talk about Tucson's water crisis after the break. Welcome to Arizona Sonora News. And sit down with the water.
Welcome back to Arizona Sonora News. The Arizona Legislature and Governor approved the multi-state drought contingency plan. To learn more about what that means for Tucson, we turn to Sharon Magdahl, the director of the University of Arizona's Water Resources Research Center.
Arizona is currently in the midst of a 19-year drought due to extremely low levels in the Colorado River. Today we sit down with Dr. Sharon Magdahl, director of the Water Resources Research Center, to discuss this complicated water issue. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. The legislature has just passed the drought contingency plan. Can you tell, for those that don't know, a little bit about what that is?
The drought contingency plan is something that 7 states in the Colorado River Basin have been working on for some time. And in particular, California, Arizona, and Nevada have been working to figure out what to do about the low water levels in Lake Mead. We are indeed experiencing a long-term drought that's had significant implications for the water and storage behind Hoover Dam. So if people don't know where Lake Mead is, it's the lake behind Hoover Dam. And that's our big storage reservoir. And it's been hovering at about 38, 39% capacity. And we're not seeing our way out of this long-term drought, despite the fact that it may be raining for a day or two in the wintertime here in Tucson. And so we have to figure out how to manage to avoid a crash of the river, of the lake, so that water deliveries can continue.
Is there a danger that one day somebody's going to turn on their faucet and we're gonna run out of water? How urgent is this problem?
I am comfortable telling you with confidence that water will continue to come out of the tap. We will have water to drink, clean, good water supplies. Who is going to experience some cutbacks, for sure, once there is a shortage, and even with the drought contingency plan, once it's implemented, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about that, will be the farmers in central Arizona. Some of the water used for storage for future droughts will have plenty of good quality water for the residents. And maybe we'll see some more conservation measures. People get more in tune with the fact that we are in a desert and we need to maybe design our communities a little differently, our landscapes. But I think that people don't have to worry.
In terms of water conservation, how does Tucson compare to Phoenix?
Tucson has had a conservation ethic for a very, very long time. And we see that as we drive around. We don't see that as much, let's say, grass as we do up in Phoenix. But I have to say, Phoenix, in part, their landscape reflects the fact that they've had other surface water for years. Parts of Phoenix have Salt River Project water, and they kind of became accustomed to that water, and they've landscaped accordingly. Phoenix is changing its behavior as well. We're seeing low landscape ordinances throughout the metropolitan areas of Arizona. We're seeing changes in how communities are designed, maybe a little bit of grass in the backyard, but not in the front yard. And while we in Tucson are very proud to say that our water use is the same today as it was 30 years ago, and we have so many more people, In Phoenix, what they're seeing is cutbacks in per capita use that are quite significant as well. And that's true for other desert cities, Las Vegas, other areas. And so we were ahead of the curve, but I have to say some other areas are catching up to us.
So how would you say Arizona compares to other Colorado River states?
Arizona has, I believe, been more water conscious for some time. Through our Groundwater Management Act that's been in effect since 1980, there have been conservation programs in place through regulations that are administered by the Arizona Department of Water Resources. So we're doing well, but I often ask a room when I give a lecture is how many would say they can't conserve some water at their homes or businesses? And almost all of us could conserve more water. And so there's more that we can do. And there's more that we're doing, I think, every day. We're at the forefront of that nationally and even internationally.
So does the drought contingency plan, how does that affect farmers or average Arizonans, and when does that go into effect?
The implementation of the drought contingency plan depends upon action of the federal government. So while all the states may say we're ready to sign on, and in fact, Arizona was told by the Commissioner of Reclamation recently that while the legislature has approved participating in the drought contingency plan, we want every I dotted and T crossed with all of the agreements that need to be in place. So Arizona is going to work on the agreements that need to be put in place so that we're all ready to sign on to the drought contingency plan. California still has some work to do for signing on. But once all of the 7 Colorado River Basin states are ready, we still have to go to Congress, and Congress still has to act. Now that might happen very quickly, we don't know. Once Congress acts, then the DCP, the Drought Contingency Plan, goes into effect right away. And what that means for Arizona is that we will take almost a 20% decrease. We'll take quite a decrease in the deliveries we're taking off the Colorado River. So that means immediate cutbacks to the farmers, and they're preparing for that. And one of the things they're talking about doing is refurbishing their wells, drilling new wells so they can go back on groundwater, which they have the legal right to do. If there is a shortage in 2020, and if we continue to see very little precipitation and snow runoff, we could have cuts that affect some cities through what's called non-Indian agriculture. So depending upon Mother Nature, the weather, we will see cuts that could be deep in the next few years. But also at the same time we experience cuts or may experience cuts, the states will be entering into further discussions about what do we do come to 2025, 2026. This drought contingency plan is not the permanent solution. It's not solving all the problems of the low levels. It gives us some predictability, some breathing room, some opportunity to then say, what can we do differently, better, or more? But ultimately, it is all about making sure that we know the water supplies upon which we can depend. The cities are in better shape than the farmers, but everybody together is looking at this. A very, let's say, positive development of this is that everybody's awareness of water and good water stewardship has been heightened. And so I think we're going to see some more serious discussions on water and drought and good water planning going forward.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us today about this complicated water issue.
Thank you.
When temperatures drop in southern Arizona, the Tucson homeless population searches for shelter. Reporter Alex Eshelman shows us how one local program gives people in need warmth and hope for a brighter future.
The homeless line up for a hot meal in a warm place to stay out of the cold, especially in January. It is the coldest month of the year in southern Arizona, where the average temperature overnight is 43 degrees. Shelters start Operation Deep Freeze, or ODF, a service that helps the homeless when the temperature drops below 35 degrees or 40 degrees with precipitation. Erica Malpe has been coming to the Tucson Salvation Army Hospitality House since October 2016 and relies on it when it's too cold to sleep outside.
You don't have to feel so really cold and alone and forgotten and everything else, you know, that comes along with being uncomfortably cold out there.
The house hosts ODF more than 10 times a year, where they help nearly 200 homeless citizens. This winter, there are more frigid nights than normal.
During cold times like this, people can come in and get clothes or blankets to keep them warm through the night.
According to the Tucson Pima Collaboration to End Homelessness, the number of homeless in Tucson has declined over the past 5 years. But not all advocates see it that way.
It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the need is greater than it was.
Homeless Youth Services Assistant Manager Megan Sains helps with the homeless count. Sains, along with 200 volunteers, conduct a yearly census of the number of people living on the streets. She says the homeless count and ODF provides a more accurate picture of Tucson's homeless demographic.
It gets more people indoors, which of course obviously you want people indoors. That's better than them sleeping outdoors, but it's also a lot easier to count. And if we can get the numbers showing, okay, this is the issue, it brings funding into the community, and then we can put that out there and help more people, hopefully.
The exact number of homeless will be available in the next 6 months. For Erica, she hopes Tucsonans will continue to welcome her and the rest of the homeless into the community.
We're folks who, by and large, have met with some misfortune, some bad luck for a spell, you know, but as you consider people, you know, consider people, please.
Reporting for Arizona Sonora News Service, I'm Alex Eshelman.
An innovative new men's shelter will open this spring. The H.S. Lopez Family Foundation Center of Opportunity is a shelter that contains medical clinics and affordable housing, all in one location. The shelter wants to give the homeless easier access to services by reducing the amount of travel time between appointments.
Maybe the bus is late, they missed the appointment, they needed that ID for an appointment they have the next day. So it's really going to help to expedite people out of homelessness and back into self-sufficiency.
The new shelter is a 3-step project expected to be completed within the next few years. The first phase focuses on creating room for more beds than the previous shelter. According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, nearly 65% of Arizona's homeless population live in shelters. On February 22nd, it snowed for the first time in the city of Tucson in about 6 years. The city accumulated almost 1 inch of snow. We leave you with these snowy videos captured around town by ASN reporters.
Thank you for watching this edition of Arizona Sonora News. I'm Jazz Ramos.
And I'm Carson Courier. See you next time.